Hello and welcome back to the Comic Lounge. This is going to be a different sort of haul video because there's only at least 3 in-store buys. Again, mostly back issues, but the remainder are going to be ones that I got off of eBay. So most of these are going to be online buys. And one of these I bought as a lot. 3 comics, 3 important issues for my collection, and even though they're not major keys, but for me, they are major. And for the deal, I could not pass it up. So before I get into these, I will see you after this. So, as I've got here, I got at least in total about 7 comics, with only 3 being from that I purchased from Highway to the Gaming Zone, and 3 I got, at least 4 actually, because one of them's a brand new release. Maybe it might be there might be a hint of what, if you're at least very familiar with what I've been talking about, what I've been showing on my channel, and with what I've been getting. It should not take too much to figure out what would be that brand new comic. But again, there are at least 3 great back issues that I scored for a really good price. But for now, let me get into the ones that I picked up at Highway to the Gaming Zone. So again, there are only 3 comics. 2 of them are actually Image. And they're like the first 2 issues for this character's solo series. And I mean first solo series. Here we have is issue number 1 for Grifter, who was the breakout character from Jim Lee's WildC.A.T.S series. So this was his first solo series. Great cover art drawn by Barry Windsor Smith. So here again, number 1 and then number 2. Got these for at least $3 each because I had them. Eventually I might find the other issues because it was like only a 10-issue mini-series, but eventually I will. And the crazy thing is that I was definitely at one point was aware of the Wildstorm stuff from when they were with Image Comics in the 90s. However, I was not made aware of that Grifter had his own solo series. But I've always kind of thought Grifter was a fairly cool character, so it's really awesome that years, much like decades later, that I would see like, oh, he actually had his own little mini-series. It was really cool. Actually, he would end up with 3 series, and his third one would be when Jim Lee had sold all of his Wildstorm catalog characters and everything to DC Comics. So these days, Grifter is now a DC Comics character, and with the fact that knowing that James Gunn is a fan of the character Grifter, and I think even the character Voodoo, but again, I'm not that well versed in a lot of the Wildstorm characters, because of all the Image stuff, the ones I was mostly well versed in reading was Spawn, Max, and Pitt, and so on, So that was about where my sort of Image comic stuff really, at least, began and ended with, Still, this was, knowing that there might very well be a possibility that Grifter could end up in one of these live-action DC stuff. So, hey, at least I'll eventually start getting around to reading Grifter's solo stuff, besides just whatever he was a part of, like Wildcats and so on. So these are going to be really good reading for me. So, there we go. Now, of course, I had to pick up a DC book, and since, speaking of James Gunn, since he's also doing a lot of this with Superman coming up, and eventually there's the Lanterns TV show, and of course, Peacemaker Season 2. Here and there, I've been starting to be getting more and more into buying Green Lantern issues, and especially ones featuring Guy Gardner, as that's the one I'm focusing on. That's the Lantern I'm focusing on, and since recently I picked up Green Lantern 197, the first meeting between Guy Gardner and the John Stewart Green Lantern. Here and there, I've got a few Justice League issues from that late 80s run. So it's very fitting that I'll be looking for some other Green Lanterns. And of course, I've found for a very good price one from the more famous 90s run, basically. And so for in really good shape. Probably a near mint minus for $3. Green Lantern issue number 3. Great cover though. Again, this is not a major key, but it's just because it's a great cover. Pat Broderick, of course, having Hal Jordan literally punching the snot out of Guy Gardner. That right there is alone. It's a trifecta of great covers I've gotten that's now featuring Guy Gardner with Justice League number 5. And then, of course, the Justice League International issues number 18, 19 with him and Lobo. And then, of course, first meeting between him and John Stewart, Green Lantern. So it's a trifecta. And so again, for $3 and practically near minus condition, I'm taking it. So there we go. I couldn't pass that up. There you go, folks. There's all the comic books I picked up from the comic shop. Again, Highway to the Gaming Zone here in town. So now let's get into the ones that I got off of eBay. So here we go. Let's get to the main ones. These are the ones I was really stoked about getting in the mail, because when I saw this sort of lot pop up, 3 comics, 3 major Titan issues I've been wanting. Obviously, Tales of the Teen Titans, ones I've been looking for quite a while now, but never could find them out in the wild. But for the deal of $7 for all 3 of these in fairly good shape, I had to have them, and I couldn't wait. So here we have this Tales of the Teen Titans number 53, and if you see the text on the bottom, it should be the dead giveaway of why I wanted these 3 issues. These are, of course, the Trial of the Terminator issues. And so again, this would be basically the first part of what really, or just the part that kicks off the next 2, which would be the main Trial of the Terminator issues. There we have, again, great cover from George Perez. Of course, this would be kind of considered a first cover appearance for the character Azrael, who has no relation at all to the one that would come later, like the Jean-Paul Valley Azrael that Dennis O'Neil and Joe Quesada created, that eventually would help out Batman or take over being Batman during the whole Nightfall story. It's not that Azrael. This Azrael was a character that Marv Wolfman and so on had created. That was like an angel from outer space. So very interesting. I just showed basically his first couple cameo appearances, like number 51 and number 52. So here's again number 53. But again, this was part of the lot. But this wasn't the main comic that I wanted. This wasn't. But it was still a cool one because I didn't have it. But these next 2 are the ones that I wanted, and you're going to understand even more now. So there it is, number 54. Obviously a fantastic 80s Deathstroke cover. Again, with drawn by Eduardo Barreto, who was a great artist, by the way. No longer alive these days, but dang, he obviously drew a great Deathstroke, and we're not yet to get to my absolute favorite of his Deathstroke covers. But this was obviously the first one, and again, one of his first time, but not his last, drawing him. Just a great cover nonetheless. I just couldn't. It's obviously in fairly good shape. It's not near mint, but still is a fine looking copy of this. So again, Tales of the Teen Titans number 54. First part really in the Trial of the Terminator, and then finally here we have is number 55. And this right here is my favorite Eduardo Barreto Deathstroke cover. It's obviously, to me, I feel like it's like a great homage to the classic Neil Adams cover for Strange Adventures number 207, which would be the 3rd overall appearance of Dead Man. It just has a similar sort of a vibe and cover appearance that it's just an awesome cover. And what makes it even awesome that this is a newsstand. And the 2 that I showed were direct editions for those issues, but this one ended up being a newsstand. Only bummer part is that there's definitely a bit of a red ink smudge there, but you know what? It's pretty much still close to at least a great mid-grade copy that I'm not going to complain too much. It still looks great. It's still visibly appealing, so I couldn't. It's still fantastic. I am so happy to actually have this. Just Of course, I know about the context in the issue, as far as this is the explanation that Deathstroke gives to Gar Logan, aka Changeling, aka Beast Boy, and so on. And to this day, it still gets a lot of conversation. It gets people talking about whether or not was it really true or is it BSing and so on. Still, it's just another sort of tale to the mythos of what Slade Wilson / Deathstroke is, and it's still fantastic cover nonetheless. And I think probably is one of the best of the somewhat very limited covers that Deathstroke was appearing on in the 80s during that period, before eventually he'd be on almost every cover in the 90s, basically during that rise of popularity and so on. Really awesome. There it is. Those were obviously my scores for eBay. Finally, the last one, since I mentioned this was the more brand new issue, brand new comic, but it is Spawn 364. Again, the brand new issue for this series. Again, first volume nonetheless. It's one of the most ongoing Image creations besides maybe Savage Dragon. So it's still Todd McFarlane still going on and still keeping up Spawn since 1992. Again, I was a kid that pretty much grew up in the period where Spawn was still king in a way. Even I know it would kind of be weighing in here and there as far as popularity because of the part of the movie and whatever it tried to do for the TV show on HBO. Still, I had some of those comics. I still got my originals as it is for those Spawn comics, like #1 and so on. But hey, I've been here and there getting into reading the newer ones. I've just been enjoying them, so I can't wait to at least dive into this newest issue of Spawn and see where the story continues on after basically failing the battle against Blood, the vampire, and then of course, and so on. Just that I'm not going to give too much away if you're not heavy. Again, if you haven't been reading it, there's going to be a lot to talk about. Still, I love it, and I can't wait to check it out. So there you go, a fairly much more shorter video compared to the last couple of videos I've done. So, with that, if you have any thoughts of all the comic books I've showed, leave them all in the comment section below. But if there are some that you're just very interested in, definitely. And if you just like my personality, if you like my enthusiasm and the stuff I show on this channel, and you still aren't quite sure about whether or not you should hit that subscribe button, please do. It's going to do me great, and it will do you great, because you're never going to miss out on any new content. So with that, I hope all of you enjoyed. This is Heavy Thrasher saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.